earlier this afternoon on Sunday, when you and I are speaking, Nebraska made the decision to fire its head coach, Scott Frost. What is really interesting about this is that his buyout now is about $16.2 million. It goes down to 7.5 on October 1st. And they did this in the week leading up to what I think is the biggest game on their schedule this season. They get Oklahoma in Lincoln, Nebraska. What are your first thoughts about Scott Frost being relieved of his duties at Nebraska?
I mean, listen, I'm not here to kick a guy when he's down. I'm not here to question anybody's, love for the game or manhood or anything. But like, frankly, it's just the business you live in. There's expectations. It's why you get paid a lot of money as a coach. And clearly I think Scott Frost would have to tell you himself, the program hadn't lived up to expectations when he had been hired there. I remember playing against Bo Pelini. Like, Nebraska was a steady program, 8-9 wins a year, 10 wins a year. And to me, just the start of the season was extremely unfortunate, because if you want to win, RJ, sometimes it's about not losing. It's about avoiding these massive mistakes and mental errors and mental lapses. In every single game so far this season, there have been significant mental errors and significant times where Nebraska would shoot themselves in the foot, and it just leaves you shaking your head like, where is the message being lost here? So clearly it wasn't good enough. Now, I'll say this, you bring up the point of Nebraska going into Oklahoma. At some point, this could potentially be a good thing short-term for the program, because all of a sudden, man, the locker room, the guys in the locker room, they're on social media. They know the pressure of the moment. They know the narratives surrounding the program. And now some of that pressure is relieved a little bit. Now you truly have nothing to lose. You can go out there and play free a little bit. So do I think they have any shot of beating Oklahoma this year? No. But, sometimes these things, a change can be a good thing.
It is an interesting time at Nebraska, and it seems to have been interesting for the past 5 years there. I'd also add in here that, as you mentioned, Nebraska hasn't looked good at all this season. First with the loss to Northwestern after being up 11, the controversial decision to have an onside kick there, then playing with fire against the University of North Dakota, not North Dakota State, and then taking this 45-42 L to Georgia Southern in what would have normally been a money in the bag segment, turns into a Scott Frost is fired segment. But to your point, you seem to have some new life. They have elevated Mickey Joseph to be the interim head coach, the wide receiver coach brought in this year. Coincidentally, the first Black person to be a head coach at the University of Nebraska in any capacity. I think that he's going to be coaching for the job this season. I'd really be interested to see how this goes. But it also, I think, is going to clear the hierarchy. And I wonder what you think about this, in that now we know who the interim head coach is. We know who the offensive coordinator is. There's been some controversy about who's calling the plays. We get to know that the defense knows that Mickey Joseph knows whether or not they're any good, and he's going to give them a clean slate. How would you go into this week as a player, but also how would you want your coaches to respond to you going into this week in which you're going to face a top 10 Oklahoma?
Well, you talk about clearing the hierarchy, and I think this goes beyond even the game of football. It's kind of human nature. Humans like certainty. We like clarity. We try to make the world black and white when it's often not. In this case, now you said clear the hierarchy. Okay, listen, now we know who our head coach is. There's our new interim head coach. There's no talk of him losing his job anytime soon. There's no head coach controversy. We got our coordinators figured out. You truly have nothing to lose at this point. And I think when adversity strikes, this is true in life, there's a fork in the road. Okay, so on one end, you can have guys throw in the towel and say, well, season's over. This is it. I don't care anymore. On the other end, you can say, hey guys, like this is it. Like, everyone's counting us out. Clearly we're not playing good. This is our chance to band together. We're going up against a team that no one's going to give us a chance to beat. Why not just leave it all out there? Why not just try to play our best game this season? We truly have nothing to lose. Will that be enough? I don't know. But what you're looking for, Nebraska, is just to put out better tape, less mistakes, more consistency, like just the fundamentals, gap sound defense, tackling when you have the opportunity to do it, special teams, the mistakes on special teams, cleaning that up. So again, you don't need to play your best football yet, but you have to stop playing your worst football and clean up some of these mistakes if you want to give yourself a chance.
Perhaps I am looking at this with a glass half full, but we still are in the non-conference portion of the schedule for Nebraska. And for me, Minnesota has demonstrated itself to be the best team in the Big Ten West so far, but we see a lot of movement in the middle of that field. Do you think that Nebraska could win the Big Ten West?
No, to be completely honest with you, I just can't. And for them, yeah, we've seen some struggle. We saw Wisconsin last week, just a shocking upset. But they're light years ahead of Nebraska, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Iowa, again, same thing. It's like, hey, maybe you want to put Nebraska there in the middle of the pack with those two teams I just mentioned. Iowa is light years ahead of Nebraska. Their defense is so sound. And with that defense, as ugly as some games are going to be this year, they will be in every game just because of how sound that defense is. I mean, they lost to Northwestern already. So you're already in the West. You're 0-1 in the West to start. So you're behind the 8-ball. I don't know that they're built to overcome it. And frankly, like, again, I just don't think that should even be in their mindset right now. Like, you cannot focus far out. This team is not afforded that luxury. You have to focus on the smallest possible detail in the very next moment. That's it for them. That's all, because they haven't done that yet. Just for all 11 guys on offense and defense, focus on your assignment, your first step, your eye placement, your hand placement. This is going back to middle school football. Start doing that well and do it consistently. From there, you can build on it. But until you do that, you shouldn't be looking ahead, and you definitely shouldn't start saying, hey, we want to be Big Ten West champions, because you haven't played like that yet.
Perhaps that is one of the finer points of being a player, in that the silver lining is I get to put blinders on. I get to do my job, put my hands where they're supposed to go, let my feet follow, play football from play to play. But as a fan, you're already looking to 2023. You're already going, okay, what do we have to do as a program to return to the kind of play that we had in the early aughts, let alone the 1990s when Nebraska was one of the best teams in college football?
It should be an attractive job for anybody. They have resources. They're a program that has history of success. I mean, they have ball players too. They are not a bad team. They are playing like a bad team right now. And again, yeah, they have resources. They will be able to financially secure a good coach. The question is, I think programs go through change in intervals. So it's not going to say, hey, Nebraska's playing bad football down here, let's hire a guy, and all of a sudden we're championship contenders. This isn't Lincoln Riley at USC, and even that's going to take time. Whoever this coach is next, you have to stabilize this thing, because it's not really an attractive place for recruits right now. Recruiting is the lifeblood of your organization. So when you come in there, you have to have strong messages, strong leadership, a strong brand to get this program, the public view of this program, back on track. From there, you need to start winning some ball games. Don't need to win 10, 11 games yet, but win 7, 8, 9 games. That should be your goal here in the next year or two. And all of a sudden, you can sell recruits on a little vision. Hey, we're knocking on the door. We just need a player like you to come in here and tip us over the edge. So whoever it is, it's going to happen in steps. It's not overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day, right?
It's interesting in that I understand that Nebraska is already going to have feelers out. And I would, right? You just fired a guy. That means you're going to have to hire someone new. Maybe it is Mickey Joseph. Maybe that is the person to lead you into the future. But as I look around, I watched Alabama and Texas yesterday, and I saw a Texas defense that I have not seen in years. And the only thing that I could see different on that staff is the addition of Gary Patterson as the special assistant to the head coach. And I know what kind of a defensive mind he was at Texas Christian, and him being able to put his strategy into place and to help Pete Kwiatkowski call an outstanding game against a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback with a dynamic array of weapons was outstanding. If you can go make a run at a guy like Gary Patterson, I think you could do that. Deion Sanders at Jackson State has been doing phenomenally well. I believe that they are going to go through the rest of their schedule undefeated. That would mean they've had one loss in the last 2 years. You can keep going down the list here. Defensive coordinator at Wisconsin in Jim Leonhard, who's done nothing but turn them into one of the better defenses in football for at least what feels like a decade now. You have options here. It's about, can you recruit someone that does not necessarily come with the baggage of, hey, we need someone that can do what Scott Frost couldn't do, because we're used to hiring someone that is the opposite of our ex, because that's usually how it goes. but I'm not going to fault Nebraska fans for wanting to reach for the stars. And I think that they could go get someone that has the kind of panache and reputation as a Lincoln Riley, who chose to make that decision, by the way. He chose to leave an Oklahoma team that won 11 games to go to a program that won 4 last year. So I don't think it's out of the question for them to reach for the sky. And if someone looked at Nebraska and looked at its tradition and understood how badly they want to win, I think that's a very attractive place for them to be. What do you think?
No, you're 100% right. Always reach for the stars, reach for the stars within the reason of the resources you have. And once again, Nebraska, they have a rich tradition of winning. They are a prideful football team and organization. They have a prideful fan base. It's different than USC because from an NIL standpoint, from a transfer standpoint, probably from a national brand standpoint, USC is probably ahead of Nebraska in that sense. I don't think that's necessarily a hot take, but again, Nebraska has the resources. And again, they don't have a bad team. Like, this is not like you're inheriting a complete and utter dumpster fire. They are playing bad football right now. I think Casey Thompson, he's shown good things at quarterback. They have some good weapons. It's just been, to me, it's Nebraska. It's like sometimes the offense shows up, but then the special team screws you, or the defense is playing good and then the offense has turnovers, or, hey, maybe the offense playing all right, but then the defense gets smoked. It's like it hasn't all come together. Well, to get something to come together, that's your head coach's job. It's to take a piece, and gel it all together. So I'd imagine it's an attractive job. Again, I'd imagine they're throwing around multiple 7 figures to go out there and get a guy and get this thing back on track.
Thank you for watching the #1 college football show. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that you don't miss any of the best college football coverage in America.